So hello there, this is John Foster RC. This is my part A of my build of my Orlando Hunter, my Land Rover, my long wheelbase, and this is essentially part A bag and what you get inside, and all bagged components, axles, bearings, shafts. So essentially we're going to be looking at A part 1 and A part 2 and A part 3, and I believe there's also an A part 4, which we'll also be looking at. Yeah, that's an A part 4. So here we go. So also what you need to complete steps 1 to 4 in part A, you also need the screws. So in addition to bag A, you also need to open up the bag that contains the screws identified here, and those are in bag X, and they're in a nice separate bag within X, so they're all nicely bundled together so that you don't lose the pieces. So I'm going to arrange for the right number of screws that we need to complete the steps in A 1 to 4, and follow the diagram, placing the bearings and such like into position, shafts, screws, etc., to build the axles. And just to give you a little idea how small these bearings are, so this is the pack of bearings. I mean, look at that, that's tiny. It's going to be nice and fiddly to build. So here we go. This is step A, part 1 of the build of the Orlando Hunter, and you have to make a decision as to whether you're going to put the servo actually on the front axle, or whether you're going to mount it later and put it onto the chassis. So the instructions give you this, and you can then either replace this part with this setup, or you can carry on here and leave this to be mounted on the chassis. So I'm going to go with that. So just performing the first part of this, and that is to do this bit here, which is the shaft, this little gear here, pin, the E-clip, and this little rubber washer. So I've already placed the E-clip. I don't know if we're going to be able to get this on my camera. We placed the little E-clip by holding it in my tweezers and popping the shaft onto the E-clip and making sure that that spins around nice and freely in the groove. Then you've got the gear. So we've got the gear, and it's got a small shroud on the other side. So again, making sure that that goes on, and then we've got a little pin that goes through the hole. So I'm just going to fish out the little pin from the bag I'm pulling these out as and when I need them because the parts are so small. Don't want to lose any of those parts. And this is a build that's going to be one of those builds that you're going to have to be really patient with, because the parts are really small. And just singling out a shaft. There we go. A little bit like that game years ago, Doctor's Game, where you go fishing for the bone. I don't know if you guys might remember that. Maybe the youngsters won't, but maybe you older guys might be able to. I think it was called Operation. So just popping that pin now through, and I'm just going to line that up with the hole in the shaft as well, so that it pops itself through. Just feeling patiently for it. Oh, it just went all the way through. So I think I found the lining up. So line it up again. Just popping. This is going to be a nice long build, guys. So again. I think I found the hole there. It goes through the shaft. Just got to push that all the way through. There we go. So it's now pushed all the way through, and then you use the rubber, like a little rubber washer, and you again feed that rubber washer over where the pin has gone through the holes. I think the idea is the rubber holds the pin in place so it doesn't fall out. Just going to use my tweezers are going to become my friend. Gently, there you go. There you are. So now you have don't know if you can see that. I'll try and put something in the background. You've got the E-clip, the gear, and the little pin goes through and the rubber holds it in place. So, as it says here, do not twist the screws too tight. Putting the gearboxes together, I've put a little bit of grease in the middle, so you now have what is essentially that axle. You have to forgive me if I keep calling it a gearbox, and those screws are being identified as that one there, and I don't know if you can pick it out, my fat finger's in the way, but the two screws either side. So you've essentially got that gearbox, the axle, as you can see there, and just to give you a little idea of the size. There you go. So it's about 34mm wide. There we are. So that is essentially part 1. So where we are at the moment, as you can see, now have the axle. I've paid attention to the orientation of the casing. So that's now done. And the second part of the front axle is to put together the front drive shafts. But it just so happens in this version those are already pre-done for you, so you do have 2 of those. So the only thing left would be to mount the 2 ball joints, and one of those being the slightly longer one for the steering arm to be on, and the smaller one for a later one, just the brace that goes across to help steering. So that's quite a simple step, so we'll get on and do that step and then move on to the rear axles. So I've now done steps 1, 2, 3 and 4 for bag A, and this is what you get. So this is the front axle and this is the rear axle, and put together I'll put grease inside the little gears, and there's you've got the shaft, output shaft with the bearing, and the same again on this side. There you go. There you are, the output shaft. So now ready for the tie rods and steering rods, which is parts B bag.